On behalf of the Cumberland School of Law and Stanford University, I want to welcome you all to this very, very important occasion. I also especially want to welcome the Gruber Foundation, particularly Pat Gruber and the folks from Gruber that are with us. The story of the Gruber Foundation is a remarkable story. It begins with Peter Gruber, who was born in 1929 in Hungary, and in 1939 fled Hungary for India just ahead of World War II. He then found his way to New York, where he became a star on Wall Street. And joined by his wife Pat, he and she founded the Gruber Foundation. In a time when we look at the newspaper and read about the greed on Wall Street, it's remarkable to welcome people who have taken the good fortune that they have gotten and decided to give back to the international community. Please join me in welcoming Pat Gruber and the Gruber Foundation.
Thank you so much, Judge Carroll. Welcome to the presentation of the 9th Annual Justice Prize. The Justice Prize honors individuals who have advanced the cause of justice delivered through the legal system. We are delighted to be here at the Cumberland School of Law in historic Birmingham, a place associated forever in our minds with the importance of civil rights and a most fitting place to present this year's prize. We are here to honor two recipients, the European Roma Rights Center and Bryan Stevenson, for their outstanding achievements in helping members of oppressed groups gain access to equal justice. Please let me tell you a little about the company they are keeping. The Foundation's prize program, which was established in 2000, now presents 5 annual $500,000 prizes in the fields of cosmology, genetics, neuroscience, justice, and women's rights. Each prize recognizes achievements and discoveries that produce fundamental shifts in human knowledge and culture. On August the 4th, the Cosmology Prize was presented to Wendy Friedman, Robert Kennicott, and Jeremy Mould at the 27th General Assembly of the International Astronomical Union. On October 18th, at the annual meeting of the Society for Neuroscience, the Neuroscience Prize will be presented to Jeffrey Hall, Michael Rosbash, and Michael Young. The Genetics Prize will be presented at the annual meeting of the American Society of Human Genetics on October 23rd to Janet Rowley. And on the 29th of October in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, where the foundation is headquartered, Lema Bowie and the Women's Legal Center will receive the Women's Rights Prize. My husband unfortunately can't be here today for health reasons, but I would like to acknowledge his vision and leadership in establishing these prizes. Laureates of the Justice Prize include Thomas Bergenthal and Jerome Shestak, Carmen Argabay, Carlos Cerda, and Monica Feria, Aharon Barak, Param Kumaraswamy, Arthur Chaskelson and Pius Langa, Rosalie Silberman Abella and Bertha Wilson, Fali Sam Nariman, and the first prize, Anthony Roy Gubby and Stanford Moyo for the Law Society of Zimbabwe. This year, the 2009 prize recipients were chosen by our distinguished advisory board. They are Carmen Maria Argabay, Giuseppe Bisconti, Arthur Chaskelson, Param Kumaraswamy, Bernice Donald, and Martin Lee. Peter and I deeply appreciate the knowledge, the commitment, and the enthusiasm that these advisors bring to the judging process. On behalf of the Gruber Foundation, I'd like to thank the Cumberland School of Law, all of you, for hosting the Gruber Justice Prize this year, and especially Dean Carroll, who has made our life easy and smooth. They have graciously agreed to host us this year, and Cumberland has gone to great lengths to make every aspect of this effort a success. Now let me present Giuseppe Visconti, who is here from Rome, Italy. He is a former president of the International Bar Association, a champion of human rights around the world, and an advisor to the Justice Prize. He will begin by reading the prize citation and then make remarks. Giuseppe Visconti.
The official citation. Oh, here. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay, this is the citation which I'm honored to read. The Peter and Patricia Gruber Foundation proudly presents the 2009 Justice Prize to Bryan, Stevenson, and the European Roma Rights Center, ERRC in short, for advancing human rights and the cause of justice. Bryan Stevenson's commitment to skillfully defending the marginalized and youth facing capital charges and to recruiting and training others to do so is an emphatic rejection and response to policies in Alabama and elsewhere of prosecuting such defendants without providing them with effective representation. It demonstrates a passionate commitment to justice for all and has resulted in more than 75 death sentences being overturned. The ERRC has been an indefatigable advocate of human rights for Romani victims of discrimination of all forms, persecution and violence in Europe. Through presidential litigation before national and regional courts and innovative policy proposals, the ERRC has ensured substantial justice in the face of often indifferent and complicit governments and public opinion in the 13 years since its formation. Presented this 24th day of September 2009 by the Peter and Patricia Gruber Foundation. President Patricia Gruber, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to add a few words to the official citation. The Peter and Patricia Gruber Foundation has been granting annually since several years an International Justice Prize to individuals and in some cases also to institutions, as on this occasion. The prize is granted to individuals or entities who have demonstrated in their lives an extraordinary dedication to what we call the cause of justice, beyond their call of duty, often, and perhaps I should say, always at a personal cost, sometimes even putting their life at stake. Without going into any doctrinal definition, what is justice? Justice embraces many things, many values of our community of human beings, but essentially, the cause of justice means the protection, affirmation, and restoration of the dignity of human beings. All human beings were created or were born as equals. Whether how created, it doesn't matter. And have a right to live and die without wounds to their human dignity, have a right to be treated as equal human beings and not to be subject to prejudice, discrimination, persecution, or violence of any kind. This is what justice essentially is. And the attainment of justice for their fellow human beings is what the awardees of the Gruber Foundation have done, sometimes in a heroic manner. Without giving too much emphasis to words, they are all heroes. And they're all individuals. Then because and behind the institution that we honor today by awarding the prize are also individuals, women and men, young and old. They are our heroes. I would like, if I may, to add my personal recognition and tribute to the honorees of the Peter and Patricia Gruber Foundation because they have been defending the human dignity of all of us. And I would like to add also my personal tribute and gratitude to the foundation and to Peter Gruber, Patricia and Peter Gruber, because they have made everybody know who these extraordinary individuals are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giuseppe Visconti. I'd now like to ask Bryan Stevenson and Robert Kushen, Managing Director of the ERRC, and Isabela Mihalache, Deputy Director of the ERRC, to please come forward to receive the prize. No, go ahead. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. You got it. Okay. That's it. Congratulations. Yes. Our recipients will now make a few remarks.
Well, I'd like to thank the Gruber Foundation for this extraordinary honor. There are many days when it's very challenging to do the work that I think all of us do, and I'd be lying if encouragement and affirmation is meaningless, because it's very meaningful. And that so many of you have come to share in this celebration also makes this especially rewarding for me. The work that I do at the Equal Justice Initiative is work that stands on the shoulders of many, many people. I'm here today with my dad, who I'm going to, if it's okay, indulge a minute and just ask to stand up so I can publicly thank him for his support. I grew up in the rural South. My dad was denied access to public education as a result of racial segregation. When I started my education, we couldn't go to the public schools because we were black. He and thousands of others told me and taught me that these barriers to fairness, these barriers to justice, are not barriers that cannot be overcome. And it's because of that witness, that legacy, that struggle, that I do the work that I do. Nowhere in America have more people fought, struggled, and died to improve access to justice than in Birmingham, Alabama. And so to the Gruber Foundation, you honor me doubly by selecting Birmingham as the site for this award. I work with extraordinary people at the Equal Justice Initiative whose advocacy and efforts build on a legacy of struggle and advocacy and determination. And it's in that spirit that I'm very humbled by this recognition and very grateful to all of you for recognizing our work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to offer some remarks on behalf of the Roma Rights Center and my colleague, Isabela. Thanks to Patricia and Peter Gruber and the Gruber Foundation, to Judge Donald, Dr. Visconti, and the other members of the advisory committee for bestowing this honor on the ERRC. I also want to thank Dean Carroll and the Cumberland School of Law for hosting us today. We are humbled by the list of eminent past recipients that you saw up on the screen, and honored to share the winner's platform with Bryan Stevenson, whose work on the death penalty and access to justice addresses a critical human rights issue in the United States. As modern technology such as DNA evidence brings into sharper relief the vagaries and flaws of our justice system, the fight against capital punishment and other inequalities in the justice system becomes an even greater legal and moral imperative. So we are honored to be here with Bryan Stevenson. In Europe, the fight for human rights and civil liberties for Roma has also reached a critical juncture. The specter of the Holocaust is again upon us, as extremist politicians in the Czech Republic this past summer called for a final solution to the gypsy problem. Racially motivated murders of Roma in Hungary in the past year have gone unpunished, and politicians in Italy, Slovakia, Hungary, and elsewhere rant on about, quote, gypsy criminality and regard the Roma first and foremost as a threat to national security. When Madonna at one of her concerts recently in Romania spoke out against anti-Roma discrimination because she was playing with a number of Romani musicians on her tour, she was roundly booed by the audience. The shift to the market economy in Europe has left many Roma falling further into poverty and despair, and the politics of reaction have made Roma a convenient scapegoat for a variety of socioeconomic ills. The largest minority in Europe and one of the oldest in terms of a presence on the continent is under threat as never before. The European Roma Rights Center was created in 1996, and it was on the untested proposition that the justice systems of Eastern Europe, with their legacy of communist manipulation, could deliver justice for an oppressed minority. We were aided at that time by the advent of some regional human rights enforcement mechanisms, notably the European Court of Human Rights and the European Committee of Economic and Social Rights, whose jurisdiction expanded to Eastern Europe after the collapse of communism. And we were also aided by at least lip service or a nominal focus in Europe on human rights and justice reform, as many of these countries in Eastern Europe strove to become members of the European Union. Looking back on that time, while the ERRC has achieved some notable victories, impressive court victories, some law reform, and a degree of justice for individual complainants, on the other side of the ledger, real systemic change has proven much more elusive. Segregation, discrimination, and racially motivated violence against Roma persist. Socioeconomic indicators for Roma are as bad as ever. And the countries of Western Europe have proven to be no role model when it comes to the treatment of Roma and the protection of human rights. Now, Jack Greenberg, who is a law professor of mine at Columbia University and a lawyer in the Brown versus Board of Education discrimination case before the Supreme Court in 1954, in his second career has become a Roma rights advocate and activist. And he visited Bulgaria in 2003 and visited some pilot programs in integrating schools there. And when he returned from that trip, he confidently foresaw the end of segregation and the speedy integration of Roma in Eastern Europe. Jack Greenberg went back to Eastern Europe in the fall of last year and reported his dismay that his optimism had been misplaced. And what he wrote in his report was, "The wish was the father of the thought." As the experience in the United States has shown, the fight for equal rights requires decades and generations of vision and sweat, confrontation and cooperation. With the help of the Gruber Foundation, we at the ERRC will work hard to make that wish a reality. Thank you all again for coming, and thank you for your support.